No problem.
Yeah, I wasn't aware you weren't joining. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just out of town for work, so
I think we'll be pretty quick. So I appreciate you being here because I think community development's going to take a while. All right, you let me know when we're ready. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'd like to call the February 20th, 2025 Human Resources Committee to order. If we can just have a brief moment of silence. Amen. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the November 21st, 2024 minutes?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. No old business, so moving on to new business, staffing and retention report.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to mention one thing to you all. I know that Councilmember Parker is aware of this, but Kay Cross retired in December, so just wanted to make the rest of the committee aware of that. So I'm serving in her role in the interim. But I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer Strickland to start us off with the staffing and retention report.
Great.
And hopefully Zoom's going to cooperate. We've been working with IT this afternoon.
You guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good.
We can see it.
All right, so first we're going to talk about foreign fire and police staffing levels. This is going to be for year end, so 2024. We stayed pretty consistent. We had 99% for fire and 92% for police, which really yielded very little change, if any, from the last time that we met in 2024. For non-sworn staffing update, same kind of thing. These are going to be year end. So for the 2024 year, these are the vacancy rates for the departments. We do, well, at that time, we still had a few temps. We had 4 in parks, 2 in HR, and 4 in stormwater. The call out here, we did have a few departments that were running, I would say, a vacancy rate of 30%, if not a little bit higher. The good news is that we stayed pretty consistent in the fourth quarter, and a lot of our departments were well under that 30% mark. And then for total turnover for the year as a whole, we were looking at a slight increase for fire from 2023 from 5.13% to 6.83%. Police stayed pretty steady with that decline that we were seeing month to month compared to 2023. And we ended up at 6.29% in 2024 compared to 10.52% in 2023. And then non-sworn turnover did go slightly up. We ended up at 12.63% compared to 11.92% in 2023. Any questions about that?
I don't see.
Next, I'm going to turn it over to recruitment.
All right, everyone. Hi, it's Lindsay. So recruitment updates, moving through the end of the year, we still maintained weekly meetings with our Workday consultant to continue to fine tune recruitment processes we're using through the Workday system. We have specifically met individually with fire and with police to fine tune their specific Workday processes to make sure that it flows well for them in the system. We are continuing to work on reference guides as a training point for different functions in the system. New hire update for December. It was a lighter month with the holidays. We had 17 full-time, part-time hires. We did hire a total of 340 people for 2024. And then wanted to highlight on the bottom our summer seasonal hires. We are starting to gear up for advertising for those positions across the city, and we'll be starting onboarding them in May for the summer camps. The next slide goes over sworn hires more specifically. The difference between police and fire. Police will do ongoing recruitment efforts for folks joining us in orientation. They had 237 applicants where they hired 48. And then the schedule for the police corps class, they just had one that started yesterday, and the next one is scheduled for June the 9th. For firefighter, they do more of a fire recruit class where they did have 45 that started recruit class in the last one. And that was from 483 applications, where 337 of them did complete all the required information needed. And they did have 40 graduates on January 17th, just recently. We are working with the next class that is scheduled to start July 21st. We're targeting around 50 recruits to hire. That job posting is out there right now and scheduled to close May 2nd, and then start the interview and onboarding process to get ready for the July start.
Quick question,
Yes.
and thank you for this information. So clearly there's, kind of a bit of a disparity there. I mean, 483 applications. I mean, firefighters have recruitment school. Police officers are on a rolling. They offer like a rolling application process. But we only hired 48 of the 237 applicants in police.
That is correct.
Is there any data or anything that maybe even just for the next meeting? I mean, is there a reason? I mean, it appears 237 police, 483 fire. What are we missing?
I certainly can circle back with our leadership in fire and police, but some of these are going to be through disqualifiers when they're reviewing applications. Some of them are going to be through the parallel process they do for the pre-employment testing, but I certainly can get some more information from them and send that to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And some of that too, I think, is a capacity issue that the fire training where they are holding the classes can only hold so many people within that cohort class. So I think down the road that hopefully will be less of a problem, but right now it's a little bit of a space constraint. And then police, I know they are sending them to the academy, and they have so many slots that they are given. The academy is more generous with us than maybe they were in years past in giving us those spots. But I think some of that is kind of how many people we can take at a time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And they've been very successful by doing that continuous onboarding in police and really seeing their numbers go up with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Councilmember Parker had asked about the human resources ordinance, and so included this just as a reference for the committee. This is essentially what establishes our office or function within the city. So the human resources ordinance, this is a summary of it, but basically just describes the duties of our office to develop and enforce employee-related policy, procedure, and developmental programs. We're also tasked with advising, directing, monitoring employee relations, benefits, wellness, training, grievances, job requirements, and employee services, and other duties as directed by city leadership. It also describes the duties of the director, and so the director is appointed by the mayor with council approval and responsible for the management and administration of employee services of the department, developing and enforcing the policy and organizational development programs, acting as the city's EEO officer, and administering the EEO activity and compliance, and also advising and directing and monitoring human resources activities. Any questions about that?
I don't see any, but I am wondering, can did all of the council members receive a copy of the ordinance? I know they probably know where to get it, but I
No,
know,
I'm happy to send a copy though.
okay. I think that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and then Jennifer, next slide for me. Councilmember Parker wanted us to discuss our customer service initiatives, and I think some of you are probably familiar with this. If you've been to any of our quarterly employee breakfasts, you've seen us celebrate people for exhibiting these different expectations. But in 2006, the city started the customer service initiative and rolled out these expectations, and we still, as part of employee onboarding, communicate these to our employees. They're printed on the back of the employee's badge, and so that's instilled. And these are the things that we expect from a customer service standpoint, so that our employees are respecting others, they are being knowledgeable, they're owning the moment, personalizing our service, being ambassadors of our city, and being responsive. So a program that we have in place to support this is called the CSI Committee. It's a committee of 18 employees, and throughout the year, we, Monique in our office, Avery solicits applications or nominations for people who exhibit these different customer service expectations. And so that's reviewed by the committee of 18 employees, and it's done through an anonymous process. So they receive just the nomination itself, not who that person is, and then make a selection on a quarterly basis. There are two different categories. One is for internal customer service, and so there are 3 winners in that category, and then 3 for external customer service. So this is a way just to recognize employees and citizens who have witnessed individuals, departments, and divisions who model this behavior. And so sometimes that comes in the external through the customer call center. Sometimes it comes into the department head, but we make sure that those get to the committee for their consideration, so that we can recognize employees for doing an excellent job. As I mentioned, at the quarterly breakfast, they are presented with an award, a certificate by the mayor, and then they also receive a monetary bonus. And then at the end of the year, the committee reviews all of the nominations throughout the year, and then they select a Sue Griffin Award for the Employee of the Year or Employees of the Year. And a picture included here in the slide is employees of the fire department who received that annual award this past year. And so Sue Griffin, for those of you who may not have known her, many people probably did. She was an employee here for over 24 years. She worked in business and neighborhood services, and customer service was definitely her mantra, and she demonstrated that. So the award, when she retired in 2021, was named in her honor.
Great.
Any questions about that?
Yeah. So the committee, the 18 member committee, who appoints that committee?
I believe those are appointed by nominations are taken from department heads for those employees, and they are to nominate people who also exhibit high customer service.
Okay, so is it rolling? I mean, can people apply to be on that committee, or how?
I believe it is rolling. I don't know how often that committee turns over, but I can get more information on that.
Okay, and how many CSI, how many internal and external anonymous, how many do you feel y'all receive each quarter?
I don't have that data, but I can definitely get that from Monique and share that, send that to you all with the ordinance and kind of how the committee's structured.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. I think it's really important to note that we, as we talk about pay performance and performance review and things like that, I mean, I wouldn't say this is sort of a performance review per se, but we do offer some type of CSI right now, which is great. So thank you for presenting that.
Sure. And we have built out in Workday too that there is a more informal way where you can, it's basically kind of like giving somebody a high five through our Workday system for doing a good job. And it might just be something of, I really appreciate the way that you helped me with this particular project. that might not rise to this level, but a way to just give informal recognition to.
And will some of that data be collected for this committee, for the CSI, this
It's
information?
not, but it can be collected as part of the performance review process, where the
Okay.
manager would have access to that so that they would be aware of when that employee has gotten positive feedback from others.
Okay, great. And just for this committee, just to pivot a little, I know it's not on the agenda, but I think you just nailed it, is that Workday has the potential for this type of performance review, that managers can sort of start revving it up, that we have that ability now. The implementation is the tricky part. So
Sure.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, and so that brings us to assessing employee performance. So this is just to talk a little bit about our current process. So employees, when they start with the city, are given an initial performance review. And that is where there's goal setting between the employee and the supervisor. And that review period would be for their first 6 months with the city. And then they would be reviewed after that time on an annual basis. The two major categories that are reviewed are performance elements, and those are things such as job knowledge, quality of work, initiative. I think safety is one of those as well. And then the second is the goal setting. And in our old paper form, though there are 4 goals that are set out. In Workday, we've built that out to be 2 goals. A supervisor can include more than that, but there's a lot of mathematical calculation that happens with the configuration of this process. So that's why we've kind of standardized that to 2. And then in addition to that, if an employee is a supervisor, they have a similar format, but they have performance elements that include leadership and planning and organization in addition to the standard set that employees have. And then those elements are evaluated on a 5-level scale, and a score is calculated and then communicated and recorded within the system. So this process has been built out in Workday, and we have some people who are using it. We have some people who are still using the paper forms, but as you mentioned, our goal would be to have a more consistent usage of this process going forward. And then also as part of this is a self-appraisal that is built into Workday as well. Before it was a separate form. That happens in conjunction with the conclusion of the review period, where the employee would have the opportunity to say how they felt like that they did during the year. And that's also a great help to the manager, because there might be some things that the employee did that the manager may not have noted during the year. And it's a good reminder of certain objectives that were met, and then gives them a chance to identify if there are any obstacles, if there are any needs that they have, what they felt like their strengths were, and talk about what their desires are as far as growth and development. And that within the Workday system is not a required part of the process, but it does give the opportunity for the employee to complete that.
And again, so this has been in place for this is currently this was pre-Workday.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
but just in a paper,
okay,
just in a paper format.
And would you say what percentage of that, or of the supervisors or directors where we're doing this? Because this is part of our employee handbook, like this is a requirement right now.
It is probably a little bit more loosely worded than I would have expected it to be. But it says that employees, it's more definitive, I think, about that initial period when someone starts than it is about the annual ongoing.
Okay. And then again, this is something that
certain departments are more, I guess, attuned at doing it. The police department does a really good job with completing theirs. There's certain divisions within other departments that I feel like it's more a part of their culture, but it's not consistently done citywide.
Okay. And so that I think is certainly something that I can't speak for everyone on the committee, but I'm sure that the committee would agree that it's something that we could progress towards.
I
So
think
again,
so.
thank you for sharing all of this.
Sure,
And
no problem.
one quick, I'm going backwards a little, but so we do have our employees, they are able to, obviously they have human resources, to come to for any issue, but if they feel it needs to be an anonymous issue, we have a process for that.
Sure, let me go to the next slide
Oh,
and
at
I
the
can
next
go.
one, I'm sorry.
Sure,
Okay.
no worries. So we do have a harassment and discrimination policy. Most of our policies are outlined in the employee handbook, and that's a little bit different maybe than some of the other departments within the city that might be more, some of those are listed within their ordinance. So the handbook, and I can send you all a copy of that as well, just so you'll have that. Outlines the complaint procedure. So there are 3 different ways an employee, if they had a concern, could address that with us. One would be to report it in writing to their department head, or what we call division head. That looks a little bit different in Workday. So we're a little bit in an identity crisis as to what to call things. But then also to report that to human resources. And we know that employees are well aware of that, and we have an open door policy. And so we meet with employees frequently who stop by, call us, email us with their concerns. And then the third option, probably not the most ideal, is if they report it anonymously. And that's just because it makes it a little bit harder for us to investigate and get the details if we don't have a good way to follow up with questions to get more clarification or to get more detail. But there is a process that they can do that anonymously to HR, or they could do that through the audit hotline as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. And then I think we
I
have
don't.
one more update. So the HR director search. I mentioned that Kay retired in December, and we have contracted with Ratellis. They are the Julia Novak's group that have done employee surveys and some other things with us in the past. They are the ones who are receiving those applications right now, and it's posted on Indeed. It's posted on LinkedIn. We've got it on our website with directions to go through Ratellis to apply. So far, they've received 92 applications. That was as of yesterday, and then they're just reviewing those as they receive them. They are going to kind of make some decisions, I think, as of March 3rd about what they've received so far to date, but keep that position open and keep receiving applications. There'll be a candidate review meeting with the mayor and chief of staff in mid-March, and then targeting virtual and final interviews to be conducted at the end of March.
Great. Thank you so much for that update.
Sure. And I think that's our last slide. One thing I did want to mention, that when I went back and looked at the minutes, and I apologize, I didn't include this in old business. The minutes mentioned that the broker contract with Aon was going to council in January. It did go to council. You all approved that, and so we are working with Aon, into 2025 now.
Sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Yes, great. Thank you. We did approve that in January.
Yes.
And thank you for all of that information. I know I loaded you up there.
No, that's okay.
I appreciate it. And unless we have any other, we didn't have anything to vote on. This was just for information only. So if anyone has any other questions, I don't see any. We will adjourn this meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Everyone have a
Thanks,
rest of your
everybody.
day.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
Thank you.